Jai Sai Ram, Jai Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Aaron.
So glad you're with us today, and we are looking forward to talking with you about Sathya Sai Baba.
I'm thrilled to be here doing this, really.
Swami is very much a part of your life, as we can see from coming into your beautiful home here.
Thank you.
We're interested to hear a little bit about how you came to Swami initially.
Sure. Well, believe it or not, a tile man that was laying tile in my house was the initial introduction to Swami. He didn't say Swami, he said to me about his guru. He would start talking about a guru. Now, this was in the late 90s, and in my head, I'm thinking, guru? What is he talking about? That stuff went out in the 70s, you know? So I thought, oh, it'll just be nice to say yes. So he said, well, would you watch a video? And I said, sure, yeah. So he brings a video and gives it to me to watch. And so that night, I watched the video. This was a VHS. So it was subtitles, and it was saying, like, God is love, love is God, and, and talking about omniscience, omnipresence. So the next day, he says, did you watch it? Did you watch it? I said, yeah, I watched it. He said, what'd you think? I said, well, to be honest with you, I learned all that already because I was in Catholic school. And I know all these things already. He was surprised, you know. So he said, well, would you watch another one? And I thought, sure, why not? You know. So he brings another, and that night, again, I watched that one. And this time now, it's the 70th birthday of Swami. And there's bands and music and throngs of people and flowers and dignitaries from all over the world coming to pay homage to this little man. And then Swami gave a discourse. And that's what got my attention because it was deep, like spirituality that I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So after hearing that, I wanted to know more. So I went to this eclectic bookshop in Orlando where I lived in Claremont, and that was close by, and it was called the Spiral Circle. So I went in there and I said, do you have any books on Sai Baba? She says, I just have one. And she gives it to me, and it's called Divine Inspiration, as a picture of the hand, like that, with the caduceus, the medicine snakes, wrapped around it. And so I bought the book and took it home, and it was about 30 short stories from different doctors all around the world that had experiences with Sai Baba. But when I read that book, for some reason, it seemed like at the end of each one of their stories, they said they were a devotee and that he was Lord. Now, in my Christian brain, I couldn't wrap around anybody but Jesus being Lord. I was like, still not convinced of anything,
Sure.
So then the next thing that happened, so again, maybe a year or two went by, and my mother now wanted to sell her house in South Florida. So she gets a buyer, and she says, oh, Michelle, she says, they're going to give me my full price. And they came with their kids, and they were about 12 and 14. I never saw kids so well behaved. She said they were so nice. They were like little angels. So I'm like, oh, okay, great. So now I said, what's he do? She said, oh, he's in air conditioning. So I said, okay. So now I had some real estate down there that I owned, and I thought, well, if I need any work done, I'll call him. So one day I did. I needed work done. And so I called him to do the work. He did the work, and I went down there to go pay him. So I still had family living down there, so I was going to make a trip anyway. So I thought, well, I'll just bring him the money. So I go there, and I go to the front door, and I see there on the front door, it says Sai Kailash. And it said that in gold at the top, but it was getting about dark time now. So I couldn't see who the picture of was there, but I did say Sai Kailash. So I go in, and they sit me down in the living room over here. And we're sitting there, and I said, well, who is Sai Kailash? And they didn't say anything. And I said, I know who Sai Baba is, but I don't know who Sai Kailash is. And they said, oh, you know Sai Baba? I said, yeah. They said, what do you know? I said, well, I just watched a few videos and read a book. That's about it. And they said, oh. And then they said, come. And then they took me to so my parents built that house, so I knew the house very well. And we were sitting in the front living room, but in the back there was a family room, okay? And that's where my dad spent all his time, and he was always looking right at the TV. His chair was here, and we sat here. And the room never changed. It was always like that. So now that was their puja room. And right where the TV was the picture of Swami. And they were all sitting here. And I every time I tell the story, I'm getting this chills because I thought, oh my God, that's the room my dad spent all this time in. And now it's a sanctuary,
Wow.
you know? So that was like, woo. That was like, oh my God, he's calling me, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I started feeling that way. And so then, though, maybe a couple more months rolled by, and my mother says to me, you know, my cousin is coming from New York, and we're going to take him out for lunch with us. He just got married, and we're going to take him for lunch. So I'm thinking, I know he taught Qigong and Tai Chi at the university. So I thought, okay, well, he's a hip guy from New York. I'll see if he knows anything about this Sai Baba, you know? So
Interesting.
yeah, and so we're having lunch, and I said, hey, Larry, I said, have you ever heard of Sai Baba? And so his wife is like choking on her lunch at this point because she knows the story.
Right.
And he says, have I ever heard of him? He goes, yeah. He goes, I've been to India 4 or 5 times to see Sai Baba.
Wow.
I said, really? He goes, yeah. I said, well, how did it come about? He said, well, you know, he goes, I was writing my thesis. I was a student of philosophy, and I was writing it on Saint Teresa of Avila. And one night he said, Sai Baba came to me in a dream, and he said, why are you writing about her? She's dead and no longer pertinent to the world. Instead, I want you to come to India and write your book about me. So he said that a woman had recently given him a picture of Sai Baba, and he looked at the picture and he said, I don't know who you are, but I have no money to come to India. So he put the picture down, and then the next day he gets a check in the mail for $1,000. So I'm like, well, what was the check for, though, you know? And he said, well, it was a legitimate state of New York check, but it was a silly excuse reason, like you paid too many parking tickets and these are refund of the fines or something like that. But the money was good, you know? So he said at that time it was 800 round trip. So he flew there. And at that time, 200 would last you probably 6 months easily.
Sure.
In India. So he gets there, and on his way, it was a long, arduous journey back in those days. You didn't get in a car and go. So he said by the time he got there, he was really tired. But on the way, he stopped in another little town. And the Maharani there heard about his dream and his story, so she wrote him a letter.
Really?
So when he got to the ashram, he presented the letter, and they took him straight into the interview room. And so he got in there, and he said there was all other Westerners waiting to see Swami. And so they were all tired and they were all hungry. And he said that Swami walked into the room, and he looked at them all, and he just put his hands out like this. And he said he could see like little gold sparkles coming off of his hands. And the next thing you know, there was a tray of tea and donuts, and he put it down there for all of them to have.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is your cousin telling you this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
And he was a doctor, so my mother's hearing the story too.
Right.
So we're all there together. So she believed it too. If he wasn't
Right.
a doctor, she probably wouldn't have believed it.
The doctor's status helped a lot there.
It did, yeah.
Okay.
So then he said he went there about 4 or 5 times, he said, right? So he said another time that he went, he said, again, people were waiting for him to walk in. They were all tired and hungry again. And he just walked in and went like that to every single person. And each one of them caught a mango that popped out of the palm of his hand.
Whoa.
Yeah.
This is phenomenal experiences he's giving him. Of course, he invited him to come and write a book about him, so he's really giving him the treatment.
And he wrote a beautiful book about him, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wrote a beautiful book. It's
What?
a very small, short book.
What's your cousin's name?
His name is Dr. Larry Galante.
Galante.
Galante. Yeah.
I've certainly heard of him, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lawrence. But anyway, yeah, so that was like, after I heard that, I said, okay, this is it now, you know.
That ought to do it.
Yeah.
Well, that is quite an introduction to Swami. When was your first trip to see him?
I went and saw him in 2005 for the first time. And I roomed with a girl named Iris, and she's still a friend of mine today.
Okay.
Yeah, she's an astrologer, so we talk a lot. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. And then the second time I went, it was in 2009. And they were having this Yagna for peace. And that was when the picture with the gold chariot, that I was there the day that they took that happened. Yeah. So that was really remarkable too.
Sure. That's quite a darshan to have had.
Yes. And also then I was able to see him materialize a necklace for a singer in the first time that I was there. And also, I don't see people's auras or anything like that.
Right.
But one day when I was there, I saw an aura on Swami that was so big that it went like this, and it went like that, and it just went outside and up into the sky. It was amazing. And
describe that. What did it look like?
It was a very light blue color.
Okay.
Like a light blue color. And it was just like if I didn't know any better, I'd think somebody made a cloud of smoke into that form that was blue. But it was just, wasn't like moving like smoke, but it was just like there, you know, right around. It started from his head and it just went like that. And
did you feel like it was fluid and moving like that when you're describing it?
It didn't seem like it was moving. It was just like...
That's how you saw it. It was just this wide.
Yeah, just it kind of scooped up and went out. So it went up and then it had to go somewhere to get up into the sky. So it went out of where the covering is, you know, out at the side like that.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it was amazing because, like I said, I never see that, you know. And then, you know how when you get there and you maybe have a partner, you're going to get separated. So I didn't see my roommate, she didn't see me until that night.
Right.
And we both saw that.
Really?
Yeah.
So she saw the aura also.
She saw the aura as well, yeah.
That's an amazing story.
Yes. I thought then, and I kind of still think now, that he was just trying to, whoever saw that, he was just trying to help them know that, yes, he's the divine being here.
Right.
You know, he's God on earth right now.
Right. Yeah, and he does different things for different people to kind of show them. And one of the amazing things about Swami is he kind of does that for so many different people in so many different ways. But he literally does it. He finds some way to show you who he is, particularly if you're an earnest seeker, so that you have more knowledge about it. But it may not be the same experience for others. But in this case, because you're both roommates, you both saw the same thing.
Yes, definitely. And, you know, he's in my life every day. I'm constantly thinking of Swami. You know, he's my friend. And then when I do have difficulties, he's the one who sees me through it and gives me strength to carry on. And I always know the end result's going to be just fine because he's in control. Everything is going the way he wants it to. Sometimes we don't see it that way, but you got to realize that.
Jai Sai Ram, thank you so much for sharing, Michelle.
Thank you, Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.